So today I learned that you can beat up old men as much as you want, so long as you say it's standard policy and that they were resisting. And now you've probably all heard about the United disaster. It happened yesterday, I guess. And you've heard about how the old man was dragged from the plane, screaming and bleeding. Let's back up a second. At first the story was that the flight was overbooked and they had to make room for other passengers. Turns out it wasn't really overbooked, it's just that they had 4 employees that were flying standby that needed to get to, I think it was Louisville, on that flight. Keep in mind that Louisville was like 4 hours away from Chicago, so they probably could have just rented a car and driven the people over there if they had to. But instead they decided that they needed to wait till the plane was full and sold out before they were like, oh hey, we've got 4 people that need to get on this plane. So then they started offering money for people to voluntarily give up their seat, and they offered like $400 and then $800, and then they called the cops. Another thing to keep in mind is that according to the flight policies, they can offer, I think it's up to $1,300. It's like 400% of the fare cost and for the inconvenience. I read up a little bit on the contracts. I don't remember the exact number, but I know it was more than $800 that they could offer. So it's not like they capped out and then said, okay, we've got to forcibly remove people. In fact, I'm going to read for you a section of their official boarding procedures from the United manual that you can find on the website, just so that we're clear on what the procedures are. Boarding priorities. If a flight is oversold, no one may be denied boarding against his or her will until UA or other carrier personnel first ask for volunteers who will give up their reservations willingly in exchange for compensation as determined by the UA. Okay, so that much is clear. Again, the flight wasn't really oversold, but we'll get to that. If there are not enough volunteers, other passengers may be denied boarding involuntarily in accordance with UA's boarding priority. Okay, now a lot of people are saying, well, that's their policy that they can tell you to get off the plane if they want to because they need room. Technically, no, the policy is that they can deny people boarding if a flight is oversold. This flight was not oversold, and no one was denied boarding. All these people had already boarded when they were told that they had to get off. I think any lawyer worth his salt is going to point out that this contract does not say if we have to have our employees on the flight, then we can kick you off a flight that you've already boarded and paid for with force. Maybe there's another part of the contract that says that I haven't gotten to. I'll keep you updated. Also, some people are bringing up that the doctor who was arrested or who was dragged off, apparently had some bad history with sex and drugs and stuff like that. I always find it interesting when issues of police brutality come up. There's always someone who, usually Daily Mail or something, who digs up this 10-year-old charge or something that person's see, the person's not an angel, they committed a crime or something. Most people aren't necessarily saying that this person's an angel, but that's completely irrelevant. Those charges were 10 years ago. That has nothing to do with what happened on this flight yesterday. I don't know the guy from Adam's House Cat. I don't know if he's the biggest jerk in the world. That doesn't mean it's okay to knock him unconscious and drag him off a plane. And then, according to the United personnel, that he was resisting. Now, none of the videos that the passengers were taking with their cell phones seem to indicate that. And even if it is true, I believe there were 3 big strapping officers against this one 69-year-old man. And I find it hard to believe that they couldn't subdue a 69-year-old man without knocking him out. Of course, the official story is that he fell into the armrest. Forgive me if I have some issues believing that. Sounds kind of like an abusive husband, oh, well, she walked into a door, I don't know, she was bleeding, that's where the bruises came from, she's bleeding all over the place, stupid. Basically, I'm just really tired of seeing brutality being shrugged off as standard procedure, and no one ever questioning, hey, maybe this is screwed up. Maybe even if it is standard procedure, it shouldn't be. Anyone who knows me and has followed my blog for a while knows that I am not big on the whole, cops are pigs and police brutality is everywhere and every single shooting is unjustified and blah, blah, blah. I've never been like that. But I do think that sometimes the police overstep their bounds and act inappropriately. And when that happens, we should address it instead of just going, oh, well, standard procedure. You should have just listened to the cops. Having a badge does not exempt you from inappropriate behavior. And if you drag an unconscious, bleeding, screaming man out of a plane by his arms like a sack of potatoes, yeah, you're gonna get some criticism, and I think that you probably deserve that criticism. And let's talk about the CEO's response. This is an upsetting event to all of us here at United. I apologize for having to re-accommodate these customers. Re-accommodate. Our team is moving with a sense of urgency to work with the authorities and conduct our own detailed review of what happened. In other words, cover our tracks and just, after a deep, personal, internal investigation, we've determined we did nothing wrong. that sounds familiar. Okay. We are also reaching out to this passenger to talk directly to him and further address and resolve the situation. That's code language for beg him not to sue us. So yeah, bottom line, United screwed up. They treated this customer very poorly, and if you're just shrugging your shoulders and claiming that it's part of standard procedure and it's in the guidelines and just taking their word for it instead of doing your own research, you're definitely part of the problem. Companies and law enforcement agencies should definitely be held accountable for their actions and the way that they treat people. That's all I got for y'all today. I'll catch you on the flip side.